time for the Morning Watch.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Toussaint. A very special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you're overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, discussing the calls for the removal of the integrity gag clause. In the second watch, when lawyers represent alleged cold-blooded murderers, we're going to be looking at the ethical and societal concerns. Now, for our social media question, we ask, what are your thoughts on Parliament maintaining the gag clause in the Integrity Commission Act? Please share your responses on Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program. But before all of that, here's I quote.
This morning's I quote: "It isn't enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it. And it isn't enough to believe in it. One must work at it." Eleanor Roosevelt.
Hi, good morning, Nadine.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Peace I
Great.
give unto thee.
Yeah. Will you be doing the 10 a.m. program later as well?
Yes.
Wow. It seems you are doing a marathon today as those runners at the World Champs. Oregon.
Oh, Lord. I hope my fate will not be like those who come in last.
You'll be all right. I'll be praying for your strength. All right? Pray for your strength.
Thank
All right.
you.
The first watch will be back after this break.
Big up, respect, gratitude is a must. How many ways can the Digicel Foundation say thank you to everyone who has been building Jamaica together to invest in over 1,466 projects? We have seen you transform communities across Jamaica, building a more inclusive, accessible, and sustainable Jamaica for all. Be a part of the change and apply for your community grant today. Building Jamaica together. Visit digiceljamaicafoundation.org to learn how.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Love 101 presents Facts on Monkeypox. The monkeypox virus comes from the same family of viruses as smallpox, but it is not related to chickenpox. Common symptoms of monkeypox are fever, headache, muscle aches, and swollen lymph nodes. Monkeypox also causes a rash that looks like raised bumps on the skin. The virus typically spreads through bodily fluids or by touching the rash of someone who has monkeypox. Animals can also pass the virus to humans either by being scratched or bitten by the animal or by preparing, eating meat, or using products from an infected animal. That was Facts on Monkeypox, presented by Love 101 FM.
It hurts if you don't check earth. Be excellent, cause customer service. Our staff is knowledgeable and trustworthy. And we have a wide variety to supply society. And the price is right, yes, it's worth it. The solution to your auto parts needs to one-stop shop. And we deliver to. So if you can't come in, just link with our WhatsApp or call and make your order. And remember, there's no other. So it hurts if you don't check first. So there's no need to search. It hurts if you don't check first.
The Jamaica Agricultural Society, in association with the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, present
the Denby Agricultural, Industrial and Food Show
from July 30 to August 1
at the Denby Showground, Maypen, Clarendon. Gates open 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily.
Admission $1,200 for adults, $600 for children. Jamaicans, grow smart, eat smart. Come celebrate Jamaica 60 at Denby 2022.
Hi, I'm Dunstan Bryan, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health and Wellness. July is Healthcare Worker Appreciation Month. Jamaica's healthcare workers of all categories stand apart as among the most hardworking and dedicated in the public service. I say thank you to all 25,000 healthcare professionals who give sacrificially, even in the midst of crisis. Your investment continues to transform the health sector and Jamaica at large. This month, we celebrate you and honor your tremendous contribution to the nation. Happy Healthcare Worker Appreciation Month.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Now more than ever, Protex reminds you to wash your hands. A 40-second hand wash with soap could help prevent COVID-19. Look for Protex at your nearest store.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, it is being suggested that maintaining the gag clause in the Integrity Commission Act is not really a wise decision. Such a clause may, according to some, even harm the said institution and other institutions of the state, while there are others who are okay with it. Hence our discussion this morning on the calls for the removal of the Integrity Gag Clause. To discuss these issues, we have online Ms. Jeanette Calder, Executive Director of Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, and Mr. Richard Crawford, Political Commentator. Good morning to you both.
Morning, Doc. Good morning, Dickie.
Hi, morning to everyone. Hi.
Good to have you both. Let me begin with you, Ms. Calder. Basic question, what really is the Integrity Commission Act and what is the Integrity Gag Clause?
I think
in that act. Yeah, what really is the Integrity Commission Act? You know, okay. And what is the Gag Clause all about in that regard?
Sure. Well, the Integrity Commissions Act was passed in 2017 to really strengthen the situation in Jamaica as it relates to a significant sum, billions of dollars, that is lost from the public purse every single year. The people who measure these things say that where Jamaica is on the Transparency International measurement for corruption perception, we're at 44 out of 100 now. It is more than likely that we are losing between 5% to 20% of our GDP. That's roughly $95 billion a year. And if your listeners would just stop and think about what we could do with even $40 billion, it tells you why the government needed to strengthen the institutions that fight against corruption. And those were the former Contractor General's office that focused mostly on contracting. The flow of money between the government and the private sector in every jurisdiction is a major way in which money is lost from the public. So the former Contractor General would watch over that process of contracting to make sure it followed the law and the rules. Then there was the Parliamentary Integrity Commission, which was an institution that would specifically investigate parliamentarians. So that's both the senators and the members of parliament in the lower house. Each parliamentarian would have to submit every year a form that says everything that they own, everything that they owe, and everything that they earn. For the simple matter, and all Jamaicans know, we talk about it all the time. DC constable turn superintendent, and all of a sudden his car changes and his house gets much larger and it's not related to what he's earning, and we begin to recognize something is happening. So we watch what public officials own and earn and owe to ensure that if there's anything that they seem to own that they cannot account for, there's a chance that there's corruption. So there was a unit specifically for that. And then there was the Corruption Prevention Division, which was responsible for all public officials that earn over a certain amount of money. They would do the same thing. Watch what you earn, watch what your assets are to ensure that you're not owning anything that look like you might be stealing from the public straight up. So the government merged these three docs into the Integrity Commission in 2017 and said together they are stronger. We can fight this scourge called corruption better. Now the gag clause, there are really two. One is the section 53.3 of the Act, and basically this is what it says. Well, before I tell you what it says, it was put in place to deal with how institutions that fight corruption deal with investigations, and whether or not in dealing with an investigation, if you call up people name when you're starting an investigation, the extent to which you can do damage. So if Dickie Crawford and Jeanette Calder are being investigated, don't start an investigation by blowing that up, because next thing nothing comes out of it and you have damaged Dickie Crawford and Jeanette Calder for life. So the section to fix that concern says, until the tabling in Parliament of a report, all matters under investigation by the Director of Investigation or anybody involved in this investigation shall be kept confidential. And no report, no public statement must be made by the Commission or anybody in relation to the initiation or the conduct of an investigation under this Act. So that is one gag clause, and that is the one the public has been debating perhaps and talking about in parliamentarians for the last 4 years. The second one says every person having an official duty under this Act or is employed or is concerned with the administration of this Act shall regard and deal with as secret and confidential all information, statutory declaration, all government contracts, prescribed licenses, and all other matters relating to any matter before the Commission. That, to jump, is the more egregious of the two, and as the interview goes on, I'll explain why. But those are the two gag clauses that formed in the response.
Thanks for the background. As we soon be going to break, but Mr. Crawford, what are your initial thoughts on this whole matter?
Well, thank you, Jeanette. It's a really wonderful rehash this morning of the purpose and the clauses itself. My initial response is, of course, because of the inadequacy of it. That's exactly why we are in the predicament that we are in at this point in time in Jamaica. And interestingly enough, what can summarize that in a way, while some of us are saying, let us celebrate 60 years of, I suppose, independence, we have a situation where a body of public persons headed by Lloyd Aguilar is saying that we need to call for a investigation, a total investigation into the running of the country's affairs, particularly to do with money, and that it's about time we do so. And he's already written the Prime Minister, I understand. We'll see if anything comes out of it or what comes out of it. But his headline is that 60 years of corruption must end now. Therefore, all what we have just heard shows up and points out to the inadequacy of trying to deal with these problems in Jamaica, because basically, although there has been change and window dressing here and there, we still are mired in a colonial structure of government.
Well, we have 1 minute to break. I just want a clarification, Mr. Crawford. You mentioned the inadequacy of government. Are you saying that the gag clause is inadequate as is?
Well, this is interesting. The gag laws may be adequate for those who wish to have them kept, but they certainly are inadequate for the benefit of the society.
Interesting. Hold that thought, please. We're up on a break. We'll be right back.
Tiles. It can go everywhere. From your walls to your floors, from inside to outside. Your style, your choice. At Active Home Center, we have the widest selection of tiles, from classic to unique. Shop our new arrival of tiles for your bathrooms, living rooms, kitchen, and more. Let us help you transform your space. Visit us in Kingston at 84 Constant Spring Road or our newly opened location in Freeport, Montego Bay. Active Home Center. More savings, more choices.
Keep fully connected with Flow Fiber Fast Internet at home and on the road with LTE data and calls for a fast, reliable experience anywhere. Over 500 communities have been upgraded since 2020, making more of Jamaica Flow Fiber Fast. And with Yard and Road, get Flow Fiber Faster Yard and LTE Road for as low as $3,999 plus GCT. Visit discoverflow.co to get connected on Jamaica's largest network. Conditions apply.
Hey, Miss Patsy, one thing with you, your pot always smell good.
If it's even one time every couple months, we can afford a nice dinner.
What? You get money from foreign?
No, it's me social pension money me collect.
Social pension? You can get that? You know, as a farmer like most people in the district.
But is people like we the social pension is for?
Then I wonder if me and Dasa can go on that too.
Yes, you was a fisherman and Dasa was a dressmaker. The two are over 75 and don't have no steady money.
Me I go tell her about it right now.
Farmers, fisherfolk, and all Jamaicans 75 years and older, if you do not have a pension or a government benefit, the Social Pension Program is for you. Apply now at the Ministry of Labour and Social Security's office in your parish. For more information, call 876-922-8007 or visit the Ministry's website, www.mlss.gov.jm. The Social Pension Program, caring for our elderly. A message from the Ministry of Labour and Social Security.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and in this, the first watch, we have been discussing the matters relating to the calls for the removal of the integrity gag clause. And in so doing, we have online Ms. Jeanette Calder, Executive Director of Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, and Mr. Richard Dickey Crawford, Social and Political Commentator. Before the break, Mr. Crawford, you're telling us about your views. Let me just get it clear now. Are you in support of the calls for the removal of the gag clause, Mr.
I would have to be, because in examining the history of Jamaica and our attempts to run a really considerably approved society, the issues that we have just heard as to how to go about that would be kept in place if the gag clause is there, and particularly the point that you raised and said that, look, in order to not infringe upon anybody's rights, let us say, are possibly innocent, let us not do anything about anybody until we have everything totally out in the open. Now, how do you get to that point if you have a gag clause situation? Makes no sense at all. And that's the difficulty that we have. It is so terrible. I mean, even in a country like Jamaica, where I would say the Auditor General does a great job, we find that, and the results of what has been done by the Auditor General, when they even become public, it's too late. The damage has already been done. The persons who have absconded with the money or bad management have already gone. So we are locking the gate after the horse has gone outside. What's the point? How can you run a country like that? And that is exactly the reason why Jamaica is most of the reasons, one of the great reasons why we're in the predicament that we are in right now.
Yeah, Miss Calder, what are your views on the gag clause they're in?
Well, a lot of your listeners would be sympathetic with the idea that we must do unto others as we would have others do unto us. I would never want anybody to put an allegation. I was in government for 6 years, and I would not have wanted anybody to put an allegation to the then Contractor General or any anti-corruption body, a frivolous allegation which doesn't amount to much, because people are mischievous, and people can be malicious and people can be spiteful. It has happened.
Right.
And I would hate in the taking something like that seriously because they don't know the weight of the situation. That the first thing I wake up to the next morning is the front page saying, this Director of Technical Services in the Ministry of Housing is under investigation.
Right.
In Jamaica, we feel that important people or top people get exonerated even when they're guilty. So sometimes, even when nothing comes of the investigation,
yes,
they're left with a stain on their reputation because folks don't forget and then feel say, if you know go so, it near go so.
Right.
I wouldn't want that to happen to me. So, but I think the problem here is not even a problem, Doc. It is so simple that I cannot understand why for 4 years we are debating it. We have several other state agencies. Dickie would mention the Auditor General. We have MOCA. We have the FID in the Ministry of Finance, all doing different aspects of fighting corruption and crime. But we have law enforcement, and everybody listening this morning know, the police always say, tell us what you know. We cannot solve murder on our own. All the watchdog agencies, Crime Stoppers, a civil society, and PSOJ, that's the same message. What we cannot understand is if the public knowing is important to an investigation, like Dickie say, then why is it one entity has been singled out and handicapped so much so that if they are proceeding with an investigation at no time at all can they say that? Not good. Significant compromise, hindering and handicap. What we are suggesting is that you don't initiate an investigation with an announcement. You wait and investigate enough to determine whether this is a frivolous allegation, and when you are satisfied that there is sufficient evidence that there is something wrong, you have to tell Jamaica what is happening. One, anybody in an agency, ministry, or department of government, if something has gone wrong, Dickie, something has gone wrong, Doc, public officials know. How are they going to help the Integrity Commission and tell what they know if they do not know that you're investigating a matter? So that's one. It's a question of when do you tell the public? The second thing, and this is not just Dickie and Jeanette, even when the act was being passed, there were parliamentarians who said, no, when a matter originates in the public space, it is important that you tell the people of Jamaica that we're minding them business, that we're addressing a concern that they have. In other words, Doc, if an investigation is started by the Commission on its own, looking into matters, that's one thing. Tell us when you're ready. But if the media, as they do from time to time, there are some good investigative journalists out there, raises a matter in the public domain, the entire public is seized with the concern. Then what some parliamentarians have said, both while the law was being made and even up to October in the House, is that the people of Jamaica have a right to know that this thing that has plagued their minds is being addressed by the state. So those are two examples I'm giving you when I believe this gag clause is doing an injustice. I think like all the other state agencies, the Integrity Commission should be allowed the discretion to know when it is appropriate to come out and speak to the people.
Yeah, but you mentioned about the when part of it, though, Miss Calder, and I think that is the sticking point.
Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah. How do we? I'm trying to sort out the question in my mind, but how do we determine the when in terms of appropriateness?
Right, but this is the difficulty I have, Doc. We have no difficulty with any other enforcement agency knowing when. And I am not a law enforcement officer, but what I have been told, and this is something we should pursue with the Integrity Commission, is that there are parameters to determine. It's almost like a science, when you have enough evidence, when something rises to a level, just like how something has to rise to a certain level for it to be prosecuted, you have to have certain material evidence to move to prosecution. Sometimes even if you know somebody guilty, it doesn't move to prosecution because it doesn't pass a certain threshold. I am asking the question, how is it the other entities know when? How is it I'll give you an example. Last year, a particular station brought an issue regarding the Clarendon Aluminum Production Company. It's our company. It's a public company. And there was an issue of a contract being paid. And the chairman, God bless him, walked away from the company because he refused to be a part of that contract. The matter was brought to the public, the people who own the company, by the station. Information started to flood in. The more the station talked about it, you know what the station said, is the more information they got. Why? People who knew somebody was talking about it began to share. Then the next thing we know is, in November of 2021, the Minister of Finance stood in the House and advised the public, I would use the word reassured Jamaica, that the Auditor General would be probing the matter. How did Jamaicans feel? I know I felt better. Now I am asking the question, how is it the government can stand in the Parliament and do the right thing, which is to tell the public that the Auditor General is probing, yet that would not be acceptable for another agency who is probing the matter? The Act also speaks, Doc, about the need for the public to be confident, Section 3D, that matters of corruption are being appropriately investigated. Section 3D talks about the importance of promoting public confidence. You cannot do that with a gag clause when the people don't know how the $1.15 billion that they are spending on that entity is being utilized. Everybody listening this morning can think of things last year that's bothering them about what happened in this situation. Was this corruption? Was it not? We have to sit still for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, silent, not knowing whether or not it's being addressed. That's not good accountability.
Mr. Crawford, as I'm sure you know, both sides of the political divide are reportedly in support of the gag clause.
Not necessarily so. No, you have parliamentarians who are not in support of the gag clause.
Yeah, but in the majority though, in terms
yes,
of when,
that's right.
Right. I'm asking, therefore, could it be said, therefore, that all that is being said and done now, of the voices that are raised for the removal, is really an exercise in futility?
No, it's not an exercise. Well, I hope it won't end up that way, like so many other things where voices are raised. We do have a history of voices being raised against infringements in the society, and they go nowhere. But we can't continue at this rate. You see, everything, as far as I have seen it, is that we have an ideal, we have a view, we have a situation where particularly parliamentarians and other prominent people in society always have this way by which they can indicate that something is going to take place in a problem issue, whether it's over money, whatever else it is. And then that is supposed to satisfy the public. Here is where the difficulty comes in. Whereas we might be trying to gag the situation, the people in the communities, the people in the country know the reality of what is happening. I have people who work with us in our community, and to sit and listen to them discuss what they know and how they know it, and the facts that they put forward to me, I'm saying, wow, these people should be prime ministers and ministers of government. And I'm not being facetious. So people know, and that makes it even worse. It makes us look really idiotic that here we are gagging away or trying to diffuse an issue which the public already knows, and therefore there's another corollary to this whole thing here now. Why would I want to get up when the police ask me, tell me what you know, when I know what I know is going nowhere if I tell you?
But the politicians are saying,
at risk.
The politicians are saying, he who feels it knows it.
Yes, but
and as was said earlier by Miss Calder, quite rightly so, in Jamaica, one of us almost got so.
But we feel it, you know, Doc. We who feel it knows it, but we feel the effects of the lack of good public sector services, medicines, fire brigades, good roads. We feel it. And the reality of it is we know it is happening. We know that there are public officials. We know that there are politicians engaged in this. Everything that we can do, every strategy that can be strengthened. I am not interested in locking up anybody. Dick is not interested in that. We would be law enforcement officers if we were. Our focus is trying to improve the life of every Jamaican and people out there are so far. So I am putting it to you that this clause, if it is hindering, if it is not stopping any other state agency from doing their work, why is it the one that is the strongest is the one that has been limited in this way? I know we're out of time, Doc, so it's two important things that Nikki and I need to tell the people listening. The gag clause, right now we have a report from the agency who has done its investigation, kept its mouth, done the best it can on its own. We have 74 public officials being prosecuted. We have 5 parliamentarians being prosecuted. We cannot be told who they are. We have people working for us. Anybody who's a manager or an owner of a company right now, having somebody working in your office, things have gone wrong. And
we have
they're
to leave it
being
there.
prosecuted. And the law says you don't have a right to know who they are.
Sorry, I have to gag you. Sorry, I have to gag you.
Thank you so very much. More information than the investigation that we need to talk about. So I'm sorry we ran out of time because just that.
Interesting, informative. Have a productive day. Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, all the best.
Listeners, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
Talk to JN Bank today to find out about achieving your own sweet home in 30 days. The time by JN Bank Mortgage is 7:31 and a half.
NHF is here for you. Getting that discount on my daughter's medication is a relief. The NHF card makes it so affordable that she doesn't miss a dose. Whenever my parents visit a public hospital, I can fill their prescription at drugstore pharmacies at no extra cost. Not to mention, renovating and building new health centers, hospital wards, and providing new medical equipment. The NHF is always helping to take care of my family. The NHF is here for health. The NHF is here for you.
Get on the path to financial freedom. Be your own boss with City and Guilds and Distinction College certification at Distinction College. Start full-time, part-time, and weekend classes in plumbing, air conditioning, and refrigeration, motor vehicle repairs, and electrical installation. No subjects required, no age limit, no entrance test. Register this week and get free courses at huge discounts. Licensed employment agencies will assist students with job opportunities overseas. Visit us in Kingston, Spanish Town, and Ocho Rios, or call 876-356-4167. Distinction College, the school of champions.
In need of a loan? AIM Financial is the place to go. We have loans from $20,000 to $3.3 million. Get a loan to pay school or college tuition, medical expenses, bills, fix up your house, buy furniture and appliances, repair or buy a car. And when you're done, take a vacation loan. AIM has a loan for any purpose. Call AIM today. You won't find a better deal elsewhere. Guaranteed.
King for the summer. Flow, you are the king for the flow. Some summer. 60 mil cash and prize for the winners. Bonus summer. Enough winnings. Make sure you're in.
Win your share of over $60 million in cash and prizes. Scratch your phone and win instant prize. Plus a chance for win weekly prize of cash, tablets, and smart TVs. Dial *129*6 number sign to activate any unlimited social plan. Get a yard and road plan or pay your bill on time and in full to win. Visit discoverflow.co. Conditions apply.
Flow some summer. Fun of summer. 60 mil cash and prize for the winners. Some summer. Enough winnings. Make sure you're in. The king said that. King for the summer. Flow, you are the king for the flow some summer. Plenty prize in a flow some summer.
Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. In the Gleaner, Hanover Health Department concerned about increase in mosquito index. And then focus on early childhood education. EEC tells government. PM reiterates plans to privatize garbage collection. Riverton City Dump to be decommissioned as part of waste management divestment. Interesting. In the Observer, distress. Relatives of missing men worried. They are among 4 dismembered bodies found. And then we see that firearms report set for Parliament next week. And motorists with outstanding tickets put on warning. Take heed. Motorists with outstanding tickets put on warning. Those are some of the major stories in our newspapers. Coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our social media question regards to our first watch. What are your thoughts on Parliament maintaining the gag clause in the Integrity Commission Act? Please leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. Soon come back.
Are you looking to unlock your career this summer? Build your skill set through the free GSS and one-on-one summer program. Explore opportunities in accounting, business, information and industrial technology, internship opportunities, career support and mentorship advice from industry experts through the virtual experience. You must be 16 to 20 years old to register. Registration now open. Visit careersunlocked.org for more information. Say yes to GSS this summer and unlock your career.
Natural, fruity, refreshing goodness in a bottle. It's Clarendon Blend's natural juices, packed with vitamin C and fruit-delicious goodness. Try one of our exotic flavors today: pineapple grapefruit, sorrel mango, guava pineapple, and mango pineapple. Clarendon Blends natural juices, refreshingly flavorful. Manufactured by Taiju Company Limited, Palmer's Cross, Maypen.
Importers. Shipments requiring you to pay customs duties and taxes are cleared on a customs goods declaration, known as an IM4 or IMS4. Ask your clearing agent to provide your customs declaration, customs assessment notice, and customs receipt once duties and taxes are paid. Where your clearing agent may not be able to provide the IM4 or IMS4, request your customs goods declaration registration number or C number, which can be used to verify your payments. Importers, request your IM4, IMS4, or C number. It is your right. For details, email the Jamaica Customs Agency at public.relations@jca.gov.jm. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
Now more than ever, Protex reminds you to wash your hands. A 40-second hand wash with soap could help prevent COVID-19. Look for Protex at your nearest store.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Toussaint. Let's now join for a look at how our Facebook and YouTube friends answered today's question. What are your thoughts on Parliament maintaining the gag clause in the Integrity Commission Act? Nadine, anything there?
Well, we have some responses on WhatsApp. Monica says, I strongly believe in leadership by example. Can't advocate and promise accountability and transparency, demanding from others when you are our chief public servants, not willing to be held by the same standards. Walk the talk, to do otherwise shows lack of integrity. And then we have this voice note.
Good morning, Sister Nadine and Dr. Darlan Toussaint. I totally agree for the removal of the gag clauses. I think that they make it easier for those who want to do the corrupt thing to do it easily. And when they are being found out, it provides a coverage for them to find a way out. Yes, that's right. And I think we are we are the ones who put the parliamentarians, and if we have to be accountable as ordinary persons, they should be more accountable. Okay, more so. Thank you.
Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much for those interesting comments. Provide a coverage for them to find a way out. I suspect that is Sister Matilda Wainwright Bowen. Good to hear you and the others. All right, we now segue into the second watch. It has been a long-standing presumption, listeners, whether guilty or not, everyone is deserving of legal representation. When the crime is most heinous and seems cut and dry, what is there to defend? When lawyers represent alleged cold-blooded murderers, what really are the ethical and societal concerns? Well, to answer these and other related questions, we have joining us Dr. Jason Mackay, criminologist and CEO of Mackay Security. And I'm not sure if we have online our next guest, who is supposed to be Mr. Champagne, QC. Mr. Mackay, are you with us?
I'm here. Good
Great.
morning.
Yes. Mr. Champagne, are you with us?
He seems to be on video.
Okay. To be unmuted. Mr. Champagne, we are not hearing you. Just double checking.
Okay, hold a moment, please.
All right.
Are you here?
Yes, hearing you and seeing you. Good. Good morning to you both. All right, good to have you both with us. Let me begin with you, Mr. Champagne. I'm just going to cut to the chase. Why would lawyers represent such individuals who are alleged murderers, cold-blooded murderers, if you would, especially if they have confessed to the murder and it is obvious, at least from the public, that they did it?
All right, you have asked a question that is loaded in terms of certain phrases that cannot be overlooked. You have used the word alleged, and you have used the words also confess murderers, and in terms or in the eyes of the public. Now, the principles and the rules that govern the conduct of an attorney is quite simple. If it is that the person in question has confessed, and the confession is one that is consistent with the client's instructions to the attorney, then the duty of the attorney is to provide representation in the way of providing or facilitating a guilty plea and advancing mitigating arguments if there are any mitigating arguments. The fact of the matter is that the canons of the profession, which are the rules governing the conduct of attorneys, mandates that an attorney shall not lightly refuse the representation of an individual once it does not have any conflict in terms of personal issues and so on. So the point is that everyone, irrespective of the charge or the crime, is entitled to representation, and that is enshrined in our Constitution in terms of the fundamental rights. Section 14 and 16, I believe, provides for that. So it is clear.
Yeah. Dr. Mackay, as someone who has quite likely been at the scenes of gruesome murders, what is your response in that regard to these persons receiving legal representation, sometimes from high-profile lawyers?
Well, I mean, what you have to remember, is that the system does not allow the case to go forward if you're unrepresented. So the accused is not represented, the case is not allowed to go forward. So if somebody doesn't represent him, then the case would never be tried. We had a problem a couple of years ago in Manchester where a case simply couldn't go anywhere because they had murdered an elderly couple. I think it was the Lynch. And nobody wanted to represent them. And then an attorney eventually agreed to represent them, and then there was some public backlash or something else. There was some issue with it, and he removed himself. Then somebody else came on. So the reality is that if the lawyer does not step up, or some attorney doesn't step up, then the case can't be heard. So there is no option to say, okay, well, this guy is too bad, nobody's going to represent him. If that happens, then the process ends.
Interesting. Mr. Champagne, you wanted to come in, it seems?
Well, I just wanted to say that we have to be very careful when we approach this subject, because you don't want a situation where the verdict or the judgment of a particular case is in the public's domain and not properly before the court. I readily think of a case in Montego Bay where two men were charged for the gruesome sexual assault upon an individual. And that particular situation was one where no lawyer wanted to represent the persons. And as it turned out, the DNA results proved that the persons in question that were charged were innocent. So one has to be very careful how we approach this. We can't be guided by emotion. I'm not saying that there aren't gruesome murders. I'm not saying that sometimes the allegations are repulsive. But the point is that our system, as we understand it in a democratic state, mandate everyone, no matter what the crime alleged is entitled to legal representation.
Is there a difference, Mr. Champagne, between when one confesses to the murder vis-a-vis when one does not confess to the murder?
Well, even that is subject to a number of variables, because sometimes what you have by way of experience, and Dr. Mackay will tell you that, is that sometimes there is a confession of sort, or a confession at a police station, and then when the matter is presented before the court, the accused person says that the confession was obtained by force and that it was on free will. So that process now has to be tested to see whether or not that was in fact so. So the fact that you hear in the public space that there is a confession is not an end to the matter, because there have been cases where it has been ruled that the confession was obtained by force and that it was not the will of the individual, or indeed that was not what the individual was saying. And again, there have been cases where it has been challenged and it has been proven by the court that yes, it was obtained properly. I remember, for instance, the Killancolly case in St. Mary, another gruesome murder where 3 young children were killed. And part of the assertion was that the confession or the admission was not genuine. And it was tested and it was found to be so. And the person was in fact convicted. And the appeal was not disturbed when the person appealed.
Yeah. Dr. Mackay, what are your concerns in terms of Jamaica's present system, modus operandi, really representations for alleged murderers?
Well, I am comfortable with the system because I have seen that there is a stark difference over the years to what the public believes is the case and what is the actuality of the case. And the cases that were cited by Mr. Champagne, are two very relevant ones. Sometimes, persons just come to a conclusion based on information and misinformation. When you start to really pick the case apart, it's not what it appears to be. I remember a case many years ago in Manchester. Where a person, there was about 4 eyewitnesses to a murder, and it was committed at a club. And at the time, I was the defense investigator for Churchill Meter. And I was doing the crime scene reconstruction for him. When I went to every single place that the witnesses claimed to have seen the crime, they were always something making it impossible for you to see the crime. You had someone across the road in a restaurant claiming that he saw when the man killed the other person. And where he was looking, he would have to look through a wall. So and every single one of the witnesses whether it was the same thing. When you actually visit the scene and start to reconstruct it, you get a totally different picture. So, you may hear that, it is definitive, and you heard the thing in cases, it's particular, like the Brayton 7. I was asked for the crime scene reconstruction person for the defense in that matter, and almost everywhere where those witnesses placed themselves, they couldn't see anything either. Or it was totally and completely counter to the physical evidence that was there. So the media and, snippets of a case is not usually the full details of a case.
Yes, are you through?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. Mr. Champagne, yesterday, I believe, in the Gleaner, an article was written by Dr. Michael Abrams entitled Leave Tamika Harris Alone.
Yes.
And I think that relates to the gruesome murders which took place in Clarendon of the 5 individuals and the fact that she is representing the alleged murder. What's your take in terms of, because he's saying, I think the gist of what he was saying when I read it is that Jamaicans, with all of what's going on social media, the responses that people are making, the gut feelings, leave her alone. Is this unique to this particular situation where we have these type of threats and comments to lawyers?
I don't think it is unique. I think what is that I've social media space now, things are more in your face and things are circulated at a much more quicker rate than before. So it has become intense. It is intensified, but it is not unusual. I myself, in the past, have been the subject of much criticism in relation to the representation of persons, and it's par for the course. It is it is something that goes with the territory.
You have been threatened. You have been threatened, Mr. Champagne.
I seem to recall one instance where early in my career, there was an allegation where that was concerned, and I brought it to the public's attention, and I dealt with it. But one has to bear in mind that this is part of the territory that you take on as an attorney at law, and once you abide by the canons, and once you do nothing that is unethical or illegal, in a situation like that, if you're called upon to represent an individual, however bad the crime is, you should accept it once you have no personal issues or conflict.
It's interesting to mention issue or conflict, Mr. Champagne, because I think there are those who might say, how do lawyers sleep knowing they are representing an alleged, I'm using the word alleged, cold-blooded murder, right? How does one sleep? How does one have one's peace of mind?
Well, let me answer it this way, and I think we need to put this issue, this myth, to rest. The perception is that clients come to lawyers, and the perception is that clients tell the lawyers that they are guilty, and the perception is that with that information,
yes,
the lawyer continues to represent. That is not so. I have my experience, 27 years at the bar, I have found that the more serious the offense is, the less likely an individual is prepared to say, listen, I did it. If it's a traffic offense, for instance, the person will say, Mr. Champagne, I did it, but these are the mitigating circumstances. But once you get into the realm of rape, gun crimes, murder, their instructions to you are that they are innocent. You may have a feeling based on the information provided that they are guilty, but that is not your role.
What about those instances where the person actually tells you, though?
Thank you very much.
I did it.
Thank you very much for bringing that up. And in those instances, the attorney has an obligation to advise his client to plead guilty, and the attorney has an obligation not to represent the individual in those circumstances, because you must not misrepresent a state of fact or law in the court. So if, for instance, someone comes to me and says, listen, I am guilty, I am going to say, well, the only way out of this is to give a plea of guilty in terms of dealing with the matter, not the way out. And in those circumstances, if there is a disagreement on that plan, then the attorney is obliged to take himself or herself out of it.
Mr. Mackay, your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's an extremely good point, and there's a case that comes to mind immediately: the Diane Smith murder in the 80s. The attorney who won that case came under a lot of pressure back then, and because it was a terribly disturbing and unpopular crime. And at the end of the day, I mean, the person was convicted in the minds of everybody long before the trial. And when the trial actually occurred, it was found that the man was innocent. You know, so and from day one, you know, the person was maintaining his innocence, and the attorney was, you know, criticized, believing that he was willingly participated in getting off a man like this, where, you know, the man at no point in time ever said he was guilty. So if he says he's innocent, and what my first point was, the system doesn't work if you don't get the opportunity to have an actual lawyer representing you in the matter. Every single attorney says they're not going to take the case. Then the case is just going to stay in limbo and very well could end, because you have an obligation to try the case at a certain point. So if nobody's going to represent the person at all, then the case, he may very well be acquitted because of that.
And how you feel normally, Dr. Mackay, when your line of work, these persons that, as far as you believe and know, are guilty, they get away, for want of a better term, they're acquitted. What does to people like you?
Well, what I will say is that you may get acquitted of crime A, but most of the time the guilty persons don't run free.
Not the most of the time I'm talking about. I'm talking about the times, you know, when the guilty is acquitted, and it hurts. I mean, you know, beyond knowing.
Well, as I said, with my experience of the last 3 decades, is that, you know, we may not get you for crime A, but we get you for crime B and we get you for crime C. So some of Jamaica's most notorious gangsters are never acquitted of murder, are never charged with murder, but we get you for shooting with intent, or we get you for some other case. We still have the body. We may not have the conviction for the murder, but the other crimes carry significant sentences. So, I mean, I can't think of too many times that a notorious criminal has been free, in the sense that he's not in custody. You know, he may have gotten off of the unpopular murder or the notorious murder, but there's usually another crime there. That if you look at Jamaica's most notorious gunman of the 90s or the early 2000s, the kidnap, the one who was involved in the kidnap of Garden Town. He was charged for the murder of Sylvia Edwards.
That's okay. Yes. Remember the name, but go ahead with the point.
Right. He was eventually convicted for shooting with intent and is doing 30 years for that. He was charged for some very unpopular murders, you know, and he was the notorious guy of his time. He will come out in his life term, even though he's only got 30 years. He probably won't live 30 years, you know. And so you may not have got him for the murder of Sylvia Edwards per se, but you got him for shooting.
Right. We're getting the wrap-up signal. You know, I just wanted to ask Mr. Champagne, in terms of, because there's concerns about in the courtroom some of the things that are said by defense lawyers, you know, in an effort to defend their client. It is felt sometimes that, you know, the family of the victims are hurt. And, you know, how does one respond to all of that, Mr. Champagne? Half a minute.
Well, I think, to respond quickly, I think that all counsel, plural, need to be mindful of what is said. And the canons of the profession mandate that you must never profess the innocence of your client. I think that is lost on some attorneys. But at the same time, I think one needs to recognize that we are performing a useful function. You may not think that is so, but it is the system that
Thank
we
you.
have, and that's where
Got
we.
to leave it there. Got to leave it there. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. Interesting,
Thank
informative
you, brother.
discussion. Have a safe day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank
Yes, thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for topical and controversial issues. For information or get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our guests and Kathy Gale. I'm Dylan Toussaint, reminding you to be purposeful, faithful, thankful, and watchful as I hand you back to Love in the Morning with Nadine Blair.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. All right, that is it for the Morning Watch for today. This